Hello CraftDee family, and welcome to another tutorial by She's So CraftDee. For today's DIY project, we will be creating some amazing home decor pieces that have a high-end look. Now these pieces were created using supplies from the Dollar Tree and inexpensive wooden items from the home improvement store. Now these decor creations have lots of great detail and are sure to amaze you. Now as always, all of the projects I create have the complete supply list in the description box, so you can easily use it for reference as you gather your supplies. Now before we start, I have to say hey to all of my subscribers, and if you're a new visitor to my channel today, I hope you consider subscribing as well and stick around to enjoy these crafts and all of the tips and tricks that I will share along the way. So now let's jump right into the projects. Now this project is a set of sconce lights. Now here is my inspiration for this project today. Now I wanted something similar in my home decor that would be battery powered and more affordable than $129. So I used this design as my inspiration to create my own version and grabbed a few supplies from the Dollar Tree and cheap wood to make it all come to life. Now for this project, we're going to need 2 of these scalloped containers from the Dollar Tree, some craft sticks from the Dollar Tree, some small cuts of a 1x4, and you can get an 8-foot piece of this wood for about $3.79 at the Home Depot. And I'm also going to use 1 of these wood stakes that are $1 from the garden section at Dollar General. Now we're going to need 2 cuts of that 1x4, and we're going to cut 5-inch pieces of that. And then I'm going to take that garden stake and I'm going to cut 4 pieces from that garden stake. Now 2 of the pieces are going to be cut at 2 inches and 2 of the pieces are going to be cut at 2 3/4 of an inch. Now, if you don't want to get the wood pieces, you can always build all of this out of the tumbling tower blocks. You can make a flat piece for the 5-inch piece and then stack them to make these pieces and then cut them to size. You just want to make sure you use wood glue when assembling this way if you decide to use the tumbling tower blocks. So I'm going to gather up all of my wood pieces and lay them out. Now we're going to start with the little pieces from the wood stake, and I'm going to form them in this L shape as shown here. Now you can use wood glue or a wood hot glue, and I'm going to use wood hot glue for my project since I will be following up with screws. Now I'm going to join together this first L bracket, and I'm going to repeat it to make a total of 2 of them. Now I am going to be drilling a pilot hole at the bottom corner of that L, and I'm going to be using a 3/32 inch drill bit to do this. I'm just going to drill straight down into there right at that corner joint. And then I'm going to grab some screws. I'm going to grab 2 number 6 1 1/4 inch wood screws. I'm going to start hand threading it in, and then I'm going to apply it all the way into the piece until it's nice and flush. Now you're going to repeat this for the second one, and now I'm going to grab 2 thumbtacks. Now I grabbed these thumbtacks because I wanted to cover up the screw heads, so I'm cutting off the little pointy end until I have just the flat portion of these thumbtacks. Now I'm going to be applying these over the screw heads, and this will actually look like a little accent on the piece, so I'm just going to add some hot glue and then place that little thumbtack head right over the screw head to cover it. So now we're going to work on our back plates of our piece. Now, as you can see, the bracket will be mounted on top of the back plate, and we're going to go ahead and center it near the top and trace it out. Now, I have it about 1 inch down from the top, right in the center of that back plate. Now, once we get both of those squares traced onto the back plate, what we're going to do is we're going to drill a hole through the back plate. So what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and grab my drill, the same 3/32 inch drill bit, and I'm going to drill a hole right in the center of the square that I just traced onto that back plate. Now you're going to do this for both of those pieces. Now we want to apply this L bracket right on top. So in order to secure it, I'm first going to add some more of that wood hot glue, and I am going to apply it right in that square, making sure that it's perfectly centered. Now this is just to temporarily hold both pieces in place. So then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to flip them over, and I'm going to take my drill again. So we're going to go back through that same pilot hole we drilled through the back plate, this time going all the way into our L bracket. And once that pilot hole is drilled all the way through that L bracket, we are going to grab 2 more screws to secure this in place. And this time we're going to use some 1.5 inch wood screws in a number 6 size. So we can hand thread that in through the hole, and then we are just going to screw that all the way in, making sure it goes into the L bracket. And there you go. It is nice and secure. Just repeat it for the second one, and you'll notice this thing is nice and solid. Okay, so we're going to work on placing some hooks on the back. Now I love these D-rings. I got these from Amazon. I'll link them in the description box below. And these come with their own little individual screws. So I'm going to apply it right above the top edge, right above that screw. And in order for these to stay in place while I work on them, I like to just put a dot of hot glue just to hold that D-ring right in place, and then screw it in by hand with those little screws. They really don't need any pilot holes. It really goes in really easy. And now we have our 2 hangers on the back. So now that we have our mounting plates all done, we're going to go ahead and grab those and also some craft sticks, and I'm going to count out about 20. Now we're going to get ready to paint this, and I'm going to paint all of my pieces in this black acrylic paint. So I'm going to be applying paint all over the outside edges and the front part of all of my mounting brackets for my light, and here is what one looks like. Repeat this for the other one, and here they are. You want to let them dry, and we can start working on those craft sticks. Now for these craft sticks, I am going to be painting both sides of the craft sticks, including around the edge, and here they all are. And then once this dries, we can go in and paint the tips that we were holding. Now just let this all sit to dry. Now while this is drying, go ahead and grab your scallop containers. We're going to remove all of the labeling on them and then go and clean them off with some rubbing alcohol. Now that they're nice and clean, go ahead and grab your craft sticks that are dry, some black electrical tape, and we are going to start putting together our design. So I'm going to start with the electrical tape, and I'm going to go and add the electrical tape along the seams of the container. So it has the 4 sides. So I'm cutting a piece long enough to cover all of those seams, just making sure that it goes right down the center. Now once they're all on there, I'm just going to go and secure them in place and press them down. Just make sure they're nice and secure and overlapping that seam. And then you could take all of your excess over the top and the bottom of the container and just trim it off and fold it down. You know, you could trim it with a pair of scissors or a utility blade. Now here's what it looks like with all 4 seams, and they look like the corner support brackets of a light fixture. Now, of course, you could take your electrical tape and go across the top and the bottom, but the scalloped edge will show through, so this is why I chose to do craft sticks instead. So I'm going to take my craft stick and I'm going to lay it across the top and across the bottom and trim out my piece with these painted craft sticks. Now, of course, when you apply them, you definitely want to overlap those scallops. Make sure they're not showing from the front side. Outline the edges with a pencil and then just go ahead and trim them off. Now after you do a quick test fit, you can apply them in place, and I'm just going to use a bead of glue along the bottom. You just want to make sure that when you do apply it, you want to make sure you wipe away any ooze, and just go ahead and apply it in place, making sure it's nice and even. Now we're going to do the 2 long sides first, the front and the back, and then we're going to apply sticks to the 2 sides. Now the 2 sides will overlap, and as you can see, the bottom is trimmed off. Then we can repeat it for the top edge. Now all the top and the bottom are nice and trimmed out for our container. So now what we want to do is drill a small hole at the top. Now you could use a utility knife or a hot blade for this, but I'm going to use my drill, but carefully go through that drill in the hole, because let me tell you guys, if you press too hard, it will definitely break. So just let the drill bit do the work, don't apply pressure. Now to cover up the top, you can paint it, cover it with electrical tape, but since I had some of this vinyl from Dollar Tree, this will be the perfect cover for this. So you don't necessarily have to have a cutting machine to use this vinyl. It comes in handy for a lot of projects. So I'm just going to peel it off and apply it to the top of my container and then press it in place. And then I'm just going to go around with my utility blade and then just peel off all of the excess that's overlapping the edges. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2 of those craft sticks, I'm going to cut them in half, and what I want to do is hot glue these down on the inside of the container all the way on the bottom. Now in all actuality, I should have done this before I drilled, but I decided to do this afterwards. I just wanted a little bit more reinforcement, and as you could see, you could put 3 or 4 sticks at the bottom there, and it just reinforces the top of the container. And now I'm going to take my mounting bracket, and I need to drill a hole in the bottom of the L bracket that will connect to my lighting fixture. So I am going to take that 3/32 inch drill bit, and I'm going to drill right down into the L portion of the bracket. And then I'm going to take a 1-inch wood screw to apply it. But first I'm going to drill back through that hole at the top to go through those wood sticks. And I want to use one of these washers that I had on hand. You just want a nice large round washer. It really doesn't matter what size. I'll put the size in the description box. But you can go ahead and put your screw through that little washer. And this will just keep your screw from coming through the top of your lantern and provides a little reinforcement. So I'm just going to apply this by hand by screwing it from the inside where the screw is actually sticking out of the top. Now where that hole that you drilled on your mounting bracket, this is where you're just going to hand screw it in to that mounting bracket. Just hold both pieces in place. It should screw fairly easily in place, and there you have it. Your lighting fixture portion is attached to your mounting bracket. Now you're just going to repeat the entire process for your other container, and now you have a beautiful pair of your mounting brackets. Now as you notice, there's still some raw cut edges, but we're going to save that to the very end to touch all that up after we put the lights inside. Now for lights, you can choose some tap lights. These are really inexpensive tap lights. Dollar Tree does have their version of these. Or for me, I'm going to use these bulb fixtures here. Now it does come with a little bib on it, and these are LED hanging lamps I got from the lighting section at Dollar Tree. Now these little bibs around the top and the little bracket I'm going to be removing, and I'll show you how to do that. It's really easy. Now to attach these, you can use Velcro squares, or you can even use magnetic buttons. Both of them will work perfectly for this project. So for my light bulb fixtures, I am going to go ahead and remove all the tags and remove that little hanging ring at the top. Now I'm testing the lights, of course, to make sure everything works before I start my work. And to remove it, I am using my hot knife. Now this thing comes in so handy. If you don't have one of these in your crafting arsenal, you definitely need one. It's only about $14 on Amazon. So as you can see, once it's nice and heated up, it just cuts through this plastic like butter. And you just want to cut around until the entire bib is detached from the main light bulb piece. Now to get it off, just unscrew the bulb portion, you can remove the bib, and then you can stuff the wiring back into the light bulbs. And now you have one solid light bulb. Now you're just going to repeat this for the second one until both of them are nice and trimmed and ready to go. Now as you notice, the top is silver, but instead of painting, I am just going to go around this with more of that electrical tape just to cover it up and make sure it blends well into my project. Now I'll put a round around the top, and then I'll put another round around that bottom silver portion. Now here it is all covered. Now the only exposed area is just that little ring there, and we'll touch that up with paint later. But for now, we're just going to cover that second one, and now both of them are ready to go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work on our attachments. So I decided to go with the magnetic buttons since they are smaller. Now these magnetic buttons come in pairs. So we're going to stack a pair on top of each other. Now I'm just going to sit this right on top of the battery compartment where it doesn't obstruct me opening the battery compartment or turning it on. So it was the perfect size. So what I'm going to do is hot glue, put a dot of hot glue on top of the battery compartment only, and then place that button set, that magnetic button set right on top. You want to do that for the second one as well. So now that our buttons are attached, I'm just going to go ahead and touch up that little paint around that ring and then let that sit to dry. You want to make sure you do this for both of those, and you may need to do 2 coats. And here it is, all nice and covered. Now while I do have that paint out, I am going to go ahead and just touch up those cut edges like I mentioned earlier. You just want to touch it up all the way around your lantern body, wherever those cuts appear. Alright, so what I'm doing now is taking my hot glue and I'm going around that washer screw mechanism right on top of there. I just want to make a nice flat even surface. Once that hot glue dries on top of that washer you put inside, add a dot of hot glue on top of the button set, the magnetic button set on the bottom of your light, and then carefully sit it on top of that hot glue base you just made in there. What you want to do is press it firmly in place and hold it 5 to 10 seconds until it starts to bond. Now as it's bonding, you want to basically rotate the fixture around to make sure it's even in all of the windows where it will display, and in about maybe 20 seconds this light fixture is nice and secured, or the buttons are nice and secure on the inside. And then you're going to repeat that for your second one, and here is the lighting fixture with the light inside. I just love how these look. Now as you can see, these light bulbs are easily removed. You just grab it because there is a button attached, a magnetic button. You just place the other end to the other side of the magnet, and it's easy to turn on and off, and then that magnet just basically grabs it right back in place. It is a great idea to make it removable. And here are your lights all hanging up on display, and I really love how these turned out. Now all of the little details in this piece really make it look expensive, and no one will know that it'll only cost you about $6 to make for the pair. Now I love the little light bulb look, but you can swap them out for tap lights too. Now just by removing the bulb from the magnet, you can flip a switch and shut these off super easy. Let me know what you guys think about this super easy project in the comments below. Now this project is a set of 2 decorative wood shelves. Now we're going to need one 1x2, and you can get these in an 8-foot piece, and they're about $1.79 at the Home Depot. You're also going to need some 1x4, and you can get an 8-foot size for about $3.79 at the Home Depot. Now we will need a few cuts of this wood stake. Now these are $1 from the garden section from Dollar General, or you can use tumbling tower blocks, but since I had some of this left over, I am going to use this in my project. Now we're going to get our wood cut, and I cut 4 pieces of my 1x2, and I cut them at 18 inches long. And then I cut another 4 pieces, and these pieces are 5 inches long. So I'm going to grab my grid mat and grab all of my wood pieces. Now I'm going to need 2 of the long pieces and 2 of the short pieces to form my frames. So I'm going to sandwich those 5-inch pieces in between the 2 18-inch pieces, and I am going to glue these together. Now you can use wood glue or you can use wood hot glue. It's up to you. Now I am following up with screws, so I'm just going to use my wood hot glue. So I'm going to glue each one of the 5-inch pieces on each one of the inside corners as shown here, and then I'm going to add the hot glue on the bottom of those 5-inch pieces and close it in with that last long piece. Now here is one of my frames all nice and completed. Now I am going to be adding screws, so I want to drill pilot holes. So again, using my 3/32 inch drill bit, I am just going to drill down into each one of the corners so I can apply my screws. Now the screws that I have decided to use for this, I wanted a long screw because it is going through the long side of the wood. So I'm going to be choosing a 2-inch wood screw. Now I'm just going to hand thread that in and insert one of those screws in each one of those corners where I made those pilot holes. And here is everything all nice and secure. As you can see, they're all flush to the wood and they're good to go. Now we're going to repeat this for the other frame, and now we have 2 completed frames. So now that we have this part done, we're going to have our 1x4 and we're going to cut 2 pieces at 18 inches. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our frame and we're going to grab that 18-inch piece and we are going to join it at the very bottom edge of that frame. Now I am going to be using my wood hot glue again. Again, this is a temporary hold. So I'm running a bead of wood hot glue and then placing that 18-inch 1x4 right at the bottom edge of the frame. And when it dries, you can see it's really strong, but we are going to back this up with support of screws as well. So in my screw box, I wanted a longer screw since we are supporting a shelf, so I'm choosing a 3-inch wood screw for this project. Now I am going to be drilling 3 holes, so you want to make sure when you drill through the back of the frame, you want to make sure you go through the actual shelf, and you should have a pretty good idea of the alignment if you have it glued perfectly in place. Now once you do drill your holes, you're just going to go ahead and insert all of your screws all the way in, making sure they go in absolutely straight so they don't poke out through either the top and bottom of the board on the other side. And now all 3 screws are in place and your shelf is nice and secure. And now you just repeat this process for your second shelf. Alright, so now we have 2 completed shelves all nice and built. So now you have an option of how you want to finish these, and you can of course stain or use Waverly Antique Wax. You can also paint, and you can use any chalk paint of your color choice, or you can paint with black acrylic. I originally wanted black acrylic, but as I worked through this, I decided to go with white chalk paint for my home decor. So I am going to go ahead and protect my working surface, gather up my paint, and get it ready to go. Now I'm going to just apply one nice thick coat of this chalk paint all over the front side and underneath my shelf. You just want to make sure you're getting all those cracks and crevices, and here is what the one coat will look like. Now we're just going to repeat this for our second shelf and let these both completely sit to dry. Now once it's nice and dry, here they both are. The paint turned out perfect. Now I did want to add a little bit of light distressing to my frame, so I didn't want too much, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some of my black acrylic paint to do this. Now I love to use this method. I love using my craft stick method. What I do is I take a craft stick, apply a little bit of that paint, and I just drag that craft stick along the edge. I just think this gives it the perfect amount of distressing without overdoing it. And here is what one of the shelves looks like. And I'm going to repeat this on my second shelf. And here are both shelves all nice and dry. So I'm going to take one of the shelves and turn it over to the back side, and we're going to start marking it out for our design we're going to put on the back. So I'm taking my ruler. Now the inside opening of this shelf is 15 inches. So I'm marking a mark every 3 inches. So I'll have 5 even sections marked across the top, and you want to repeat this or down on the bottom as well. Now, in order to see these a little better, I'm going to go ahead and take my X-Acto, my Sharpie, and I'm going to mark those marks with my Sharpie so I'll know where all the marks are. Now, to make my design, I'm going to be using this irrigation tubing. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you know I love to use this tubing in my design. Now, this is made by Orbit, but they also have some by Rainbird. But what I love to do is I love to use this as wrought iron. The texture of it looks like wrought iron, so I love to use this in my project. So what I'm going to do is unwind a bit, and I'm going to cut some pieces at 7.5 inches. Now, once it's done, I'm going to cut 10 of these tube pieces for each one of my frames. So now that we have all our tube pieces cut, we can start adding them to the frame. Now, if you don't want to work with tube, you can definitely use the garden fence or whatever you may prefer. Now, I'm going to bend these just a little so they curve, and I'm going to match up those ends with the little marks on the back. Now, I'm overlapping the ends about 1/2 inch on each side, but I wanted them to curve to form a pattern. So I'm going to be overlapping them as shown here so they create a little pattern or design. And I'm securing these in place with the hot glue. Now we're just going to repeat this pattern all the way down the back of this display shelf, and you will see it all come together really easily. So now here I am applying that last piece in place, just making sure it's nice and overlapped, and now you've created a really beautiful design. Now, to add a little bit more security, I am just going to go in and I'm going to staple the ends of that tubing all the way down the back side. Now here is what it looks like on the front, and I think it looks gorgeous. So as you can see, this sign protrudes a little off the back, so hanging can be tricky. So what I like to do to resolve this is I took some more of that garden stake, or you can use a couple of tumbling tower blocks stacked, and I'm going to add these to the back at the top and the bottom. Now what this does is bump it out from the wall just a little bit so the back of your pattern on here doesn't touch your wall and your shelf will sit nice and straight. So I'm just going to apply these bumpers in place with a little bit of that wood hot glue, and I'm going to apply one in each one of the corners on the back. And then to hang it, I didn't want to use the metal hooks because they wouldn't protrude far enough. I'm going to use this thick jute twine. So I'm taking a long piece and I'm going to tie a double knot in each end in between those two blocks. Now once you trim down all of the edges, you can secure this in place. Now I'm going to secure it on one side first. I'm going to take my staple gun and I'm going to apply 2 or 3 staples in that end, and then at the other end I'm going to make sure it's nice and even, leaving a little slack in the middle and applying 2 or 3 staples there. Now I'm going to add some staples in the middle here, but you want to make sure you have at least 2 nice loops, and you want to apply 2 or 3 staples there. So now you have 2 hanging loops, and this is important to keep your shelf nice and even. Now I'm going to do the same process with my second shelf, and here are both of my shelves all nice and completed. Now I'm just going to go in with my little paintbrush and remove all of those hot glue webs to get ready to put these on display. And now it's time to hang these up and enjoy them. Now I really think these turned out great. Now I absolutely love working with the tubing, and it really does look like wrought iron. And the subtle little distressing on the shelf is perfect, and it really gives the wood more character. Now you guys, both of these high-end projects today were so much fun to make, and I hope that you were inspired. Now as always, I love them both, but you guys have to let me know in the comments which one of these projects today was your favorite. Listen, if you love DIYs on a budget, please give this video a thumbs up and share this video with your friends. Make sure that you're following She's So Crafty EE on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest for the latest news, sneak peeks, and giveaways. Now, if you like videos like these and don't want to miss the next one, make sure you're subscribed by clicking that subscribe button below, or just click on my She's So Crafty logo on your screen and make sure you hit that bell to be notified when the next DIY goes live. It's absolutely free. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.